All right, lovely. Let's rock and roll here. So a couple of things. I'm going to ask you guys to take some actions here as we're getting things going. And I do have a really good workshop for you that I think is going to be really, really valuable. So I do want to make sure that you have something you can take some notes with. But here's the actions. First things first, I'm going to ask you to log into your email for me. And I sent you an email with a document that has a spot to put your team builder form. Now, I confess this is my fault for not getting this out to you sooner. We had intended to have it done by the summer kickoff, and then we didn't have it created yet on time. And then it was created last week, and my fault for just not sending it out. So I sent you an email today. I forget what I called it, but it's like the team builder form for the Bahamas or something like that. Each one of you has a tab with your name. And what I want you to do is go into your name, or your tab, and I want each person to put 10 people that you could recommend for the job. We've talked about this for a couple of weeks, so this isn't new, but just a reminder. They could be people that you recommended last summer or last winter who either weren't interested in the job at the time or didn't work out for whatever reason. You could recommend them fresh for the summer. These could be people that you've met since then, or just people that you should have recommended before that you didn't. The goal is for each of you guys to completely fill this thing up and give yourself lots and lots of shots at getting PR credit, because it does not only help the team, you also get a percentage of everything they sell, and this is a key component to helping you win the trip to the Bahamas. So the goal is to fill up the page for each of you, but at a minimum, we're looking for 10 right now. And then just a reminder, by the way, for the branch managers, if you have friends or if you have contacts in your territory, I wouldn't do your Facebook Jumpstart list. Like, these should be your personal contacts, and it's two separate things, right? Your personal friends and your Facebook Jumpstart friends. But if you have friends in your territory, I think about Charlie as an easy one, who's opening his office in his territory. You can certainly put them for your own territory. Or if not, if you have people that you think would be a good fit either, and I will say this for the branches, for my office, if you know people that would be a good fit for the sales rep position, or if you know people that would be a good fit for the recruiting assistant position, please recommend them. And A, I would appreciate that. B, if you get me someone who becomes a recruiting assistant, I'll give you a $25 cash bonus. And if you get me someone who becomes a sales rep, then I will pay you a percentage of their sales, just like I would for the assistant managers. So again, for the branches, your first priority is your own office. But if you don't have, like, I know Becky, you're moving to Dover, and I'm just going to guess you don't have any personal friends in Dover. But if you want to do them from my office, that would be much appreciated, and I'll make sure that you are compensated for that. But what I'm going to do is pause the recording. For all of you who are live, please do this now and tell me when you've got at least 10, and then I will unpause the recording. And for those of you watching the recording, please pause your own video, do this, get 10, and then unpause the video and keep going yourselves as well. All right, here's the next step. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you guys two things. So share here. All right, so I'm going to show you three things. Number one, in terms of creating content, I know the example we use divisionally is David Emertegi's, but Kayla's got a really good example. So she's just constantly posting stuff that is relevant to her demographic, which is, in this case, right there, students. What is it?
That's my mood right there.
Great. But she's constantly posting. Now, the way that she does this is she goes through her sharp reps, or I'm sure that these people just pop up on your own timeline, then you just share stuff, I'm assuming?
No, I go to my my list, and I go through there. It's just easier rather than having to go scroll through my timeline. It's like a lot quicker.
Cool. So she'll go to like some of her top reps or top people, their page, and then she'll just pick one or two or three things from their page that she then shares to her own timeline. And then everybody sees it. The person that she's sharing it from gets a notification. They appreciate that. But at the end of the day, I don't understand all the science, but here's what you're trying to accomplish. When people see that you liked their stuff, or you laughed at it, or you hearted it, when they see that you shared it, it activates a pleasure sensor in their brain that makes them feel connected to you. And in some cases, they will feel just as connected to you on Facebook as they would if you were actual in-person friends from school, because of the way the brain responds to this stuff. I don't understand all the neuroscience, but it is legit. So that's the reason that we do this stuff, is that you want to get them responding to you that way. Does this make sense? That's the reason you want to be posting content. Then what Kayla does strategically is once a week, she posts something related to vectors. So today she just posted something with an ad calling for a recruiting assistant. About a week ago, I just had it on here, she posted something with a picture of the team, and I didn't read that post, but something.
Shit, that was very nice.
And then if I had to guess, about a week down here, I'm not going to go scroll all the way until I necessarily find it.
You just missed it. I didn't put a picture. It's right above my picture.
That one? Okay, somewhere in
behind
here.
it.
Somewhere in here nearby.
That's why you
Right.
post every week, because it gets lost.
So like once a week, she's posting something related to the job. And for the most part, she's just posting memes and funny pictures and pictures of herself working out and pictures of her dog eating a cup of whipped cream.
It's a puppuccino, thank you.
I understand that. It's a cup of whipped cream.
It's called a puppuccino.
But that's the content that she's posting. And this has a couple of effects. Number one is there will never be a time that something you post gets seen by your entire friends list. That's not how Facebook does it. It'll send it to a certain percentage. And what happens, and you guys need to know this, especially if you haven't been posting content and you just posted the alpaca pic, 2% of your entire friends list just saw it. So if you've got 100 friends, 2 of them just saw it. You guys tracking with me? Like, it's not many, but the more that you get people to like your stuff and comment on it, the larger percentage of people Facebook will show your stuff to. Okay, yeah. Even when Kayla posts like 2 or 3 things in a night, I like most of her stuff because I'm trying to be nice. Also, I photo commented on one of your posts last night, so you should go back and like my comment. Just saying, it's important. But it shows me multiple of her posts, but I still don't even see every single one of them. That's how the Facebook algorithm works. So when you're posting content on a daily basis, and we've talked about this, but you don't need to spend a ton of time on it. You don't need to be posting 2, 3, 4, 5 things a night, but even just posting like one thing a day, right, that people find relatable, that people are likely to like or laugh at or comment on, that expands your reach to a larger portion of your demographic. And Kayla, I think this is worth talking about. Do the short version, please, because I don't want to spend our entire Leadership Academy on this. But if you can share the difference between having had relatable content last year versus this year.
Well, the difference is last year I didn't post anything. I was like, I don't really want to post, so I'm just not going to do it. It's fine. Like, people are going to respond to my messages anyway. And I'm not going to say I got a bad turnout and stuff like that. I can't really kind of judge this year because I haven't really started. But people definitely like the stuff I post, and like they know my name because I'm posting a lot and I'm sharing their stuff and I'm liking their stuff and I'm like sending them happy birthdays, and I did none of that last year, like at all. And I'm not gonna say it's completely pointless if you build up a network and don't do it, but it's kind of completely pointless. Like, you might get a few, but you're not going to get that conversion ratio that you want if you're not posting and stuff like that. Like, that's just as important as having that amount of friends as well. So, yeah, because they'll also, like, they might, like, I had some guy yesterday, he was like, I don't want a job. Here's my brother's number. He just gave me his number. And he probably did that because he felt comfortable with me. Like, we've had many conversations on Facebook before. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have done that if, like, because, like, that's kind of, like, weird. Like, oh, here's my brother's number. I don't know you from a can of paint. You know, here you go. So, yeah, that was all about building relationships. So, yeah.
Cool.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you. So that's the reason that we want you posting content. And I said this last week, but as we're coming up on the time where for most of you guys, we're going to start to send messages next week. you want to make sure that people see your name, that you're familiar to them, so that when you message them, you actually get people in the door, right? The goal isn't just to work hard, but it's really at the end of the day to get results. So that's the first thing. Second thing, Kayla made a comment earlier, and I figured I'd pull up a relevant example, is posting polls. Okay, now I don't even know how to do that, so maybe Kayla, I'll need you to teach them how. I don't know, right? But I have my consultant, my marketing guy, Sam Hodgett. He does this stuff like once a week. He posts a poll, and it's stupid stuff. Okay, so I'll just show you a couple of examples. This one, he says, my wife and I need to settle a debate. Which utensil do you eat scrambled eggs with? And then he puts a funny GIF for a fork and a weird thing for a spoon. And you can see, like, this thing, only 4 people liked it or laughed at it. But look how many effing votes it got. 143 people voted. That's dumb. That's not even a thing in my mind. It's like, is that really worth your time? Also, I didn't vote, just in case you were wondering. But 143 people are like, I need to be heard on this important issue, right? And then on top of that, 35 people posted a comment. And I'll show you some of the comments. Most of them are like weighing in with their highly opinionated opinion on this matter. And then some people post, a lot of people post GIFs, right? Trying to be funny or whatever. But here's the thing. What Facebook sees is that you had 143 people interact, you had 35 comments, and the Facebook algorithm says, this is relevant, people want to see this, we're going to show it to a larger percentage of your friends list. Does this make sense? And then what Sam is doing, very similar to what we are, so he's a marketing guy, right? He's trying to get people to come in and hire him for marketing services. So the more he gets his weird content out in front of people, the more people see his marketing content. You guys get that? Right? I can scroll up. He does this like once a week, so it's going to take a little bit of scrolling. By the way, Sam is basically doing the Facebook Jumpstart program. He posts 1 to 2 posts per day. Right? 1 to 2 per day. And most of it is super relatable stuff. Now, he's a dad, and his audience is not college students, so he posts a lot of like baby pictures and family related stuff because that's more his audience. But I'll scroll up. There's another, oh, there. So for him, this is the equivalent of Kayla's post with the team and the team photo. This is a hire me as your marketing guy post right there. Yeah, here's another one of his polls. What utensil do you use to eat mac and cheese? Same deal, fork and spoon. But it's not even a different thing. But it got 41 posters, 14 comments. So I guess that one didn't do quite as well, huh? Maybe you should have had a different GIF or fork. Who knows? And then let's see. Boom, marketing one right there. And then I've got one more poll somewhere up top here. Oh, here's an interesting. Just posted a random thing. Oh, here's another thing. Just like marketing 101. People love to have their opinions heard. Okay, so if you want people to engage with your post, it doesn't even need to be relevant. Just give them a chance where they can weigh in with an opinion. So this post, I just saw a lady walking her cat on a leash. Do people really do that with cats? 40 comments, 1 share, and 20-something likes. All right, that is a stupid question that has no real impact on anything at all. But to the marketer's mind, giving people a forum where they can weigh in, man, so much value in that. Also, my wife fell into his funnel by commenting. Here's the most recent one. So this just went out last night. Is it okay to scratch one's back using the corner of a wall or the edge of a door frame? And then yes, duh, or oh, hell nah. And so far he's got 37 votes, 3 likes, 1 comment so far. Okay, so in terms of what to put, what kind of content to put, memes are great. Memes are also probably the easiest thing because you don't need to do anything. You just find someone who's got a good meme, you steal it, you share it, you're done. Polls are great. just questions where you ask people their opinion are great. But at the end of the day, ideally, you would be taking about 30 minutes in total, right, while you're doing your friending, and also send out all your happy birthdays and also put some kind of post, whether it's an opinion, a poll, just sharing memes, whatever. But that, I would say, is the most effective way to do Facebook Jumpstart. The only other thing I would add to that is that you set yourself a time limit for how long you're willing to do it. You go on, you do it, and you make sure you get off of Facebook at a scheduled time as well. Because what you don't want is to sit there for 4 hours on Facebook, because there does come a point when you're being busy, but you're no longer being productive. So like 30 minutes, you jump on, do a bunch of stuff, pop off. I think that would be the perfect Facebook Jumpstart routine. Kayla, anything you would like to add or comment on that?
For the polls, just make sure it's something relatable. Is like, I think a few weeks ago I did like Starbucks or Dunkin'. Like most people, a lot of people did tea or coffee's fine. Pepsi or Coke. So like stuff that's relatable, not political. So not like Donald Trump or so and so. Like don't do that. But yeah, stuff that's relatable and stuff like that. Not like random stuff because people are like, what the heck? What the heck is this stuff? Make sure it's relatable. Hey, look, it's working.
Yes. Cool. Beautiful. Final thing, and I want you guys to do this now, please. So I sent you an email with a really good post that I'd like you guys to put up. You may or may not have seen this. This has been kind of shared around, starting in the Facebook Jumpstart. But last year, we were voted as the number 12 employer to work for in the entire nation. And it looks like we just got a very similar award that we just got, which is really friggin' exciting. Glassdoor, if you guys don't know, is a company where people go and they review their jobs and they tell you if they recommend working there or not. And Vector got some really nice shout outs, which is awesome. I do know that for some of these companies, they pay to play. Like they'll pay people to leave reviews, and ours is 100% organic, which I wouldn't post that into your Facebook post, but I think that's pretty cool, right? But anyway, so I emailed you this picture, okay? And I emailed you exactly what to put. Now, if you are a branch manager, post your own Google form, okay? If you don't have a Google form created yet, you should do that. Create a Google form, yeah. But if you don't have a Google form created yet, use MD, like Maryland, studentwork.com. Or if you're in Delaware, use DE, studentwork.com. It'll go to the divisional Google form. But preference, is that it goes to your own Google form. If you're an assistant manager, then post the link in the email I sent you. It's arundelwork.com. But all you want to do is just copy and paste that post, put the appropriate website, branches, use your own, assistants, use Arundel Work, and then post that photo, and you're golden. So if you can please do that. Again, I'll pause the recording temporarily. And once it's posted, unpause the recording. I'm going to resume the recording for this. Just FYI, one last thing. When you post a work-related ad, you want to hide your last work-related ad. I'm going to go back to screen sharing and show you how to do this for those of you that don't know. So, boom. All right, so Landon, this is for you, bro. So if this was a work-related post, I would click these three dots up here. And what you want to do is hide from timeline. You do not want to delete the ad, because one of the key components when we start Facebook messaging is asking people to share your post, okay? If you delete the post, everybody who shared it, their link is also deleted. Okay, so don't delete is the point. But if you hide from timeline, it will not show up on your timeline anymore, but anybody who shared it, their share stay active. So you just want to hide, and then you post a fresh work-related thing. So once a week, you hide the old one. and you post a new one. Does that make sense?
That's awesome.
Okay.
That's also why you post once a week, guys, because it gets lost. And if you ask somebody to share something, they can't find it right away. They're gonna be like, okay, screw it. Like, I'm not doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other advantage to hiding it is that when people do look at your profile, it doesn't look like you're a spammy marketer. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen this. Even for me, like, I get friend requests and I always look at their profile first. And if I see that people aren't posting anything and they're not active, I'm like, I'm not accepting you. This might be a bot or a spam. And I mark them as
You
spam.
did that like recently
What I do?
with that girl that added you from like connection.
Oh, I get those every day.
Right. Second thing I look at is their post just full of spam? Okay. There was one, I got a friend request last night and I was like, who is this guy? And I looked and we had a couple mutual friends, but his entire profile is just spamming selling stuff. And I was like, I'm definitely not accepting this guy because he's just going to spam. All right. So when I see people, and I admit I've got some friends of mine, just like you guys, where I don't know them personally, but I know they're in the 10X group, especially after the 10X conference, my friend request got blown up. And I look through their profile. I'm like, all right, they're a real human and we have something in common, right? In this case, it was 10X. In your case, it's mutual friends. And they like your memes. But I'm like, cool. So I accepted a bunch of these people. And then the funny thing, and granted, like 10X is a movement like centered around sales. So the culture in the 10X movement is that, yeah, we all are in sales. We all sell each other stuff. And we consider every other 10Xer our power base. So I don't get offended when 10Xers try to sell me stuff. And I'm also pitching them all the time, you know? But there is a difference between spamming and reaching out and saying, hey, are you a potentially qualified person for this? Does that make sense? So the same stuff that you guys are doing with Facebook Jumpstart, it's common is what I'm trying to say. And even Kayla was just telling a story off the recording while I had it paused, but she just had someone who basically tried to Facebook Jumpstart her. And then it became for lack of a better term, like a pissing contest to see who could recruit who first, and it looks like Kayla might be winning. But also she's the experienced Facebook Jumpstart veteran. Anyway, moving on from there. Do we feel good on the Facebook part? Okay, I will say this. It took us 45 minutes in our time, whoever's watching the recording. I don't know how long it took you, but it took us 45 minutes just to get to this point. So we're gonna have to nix a couple of things off the agenda here. All right, there's two things I want to cover. I'm going to ask you guys, please close Facebook. Don't let that be a distraction. I do want you to have some notes handy, though, because these next two things I think are going to be extremely valuable for all of you guys as we move into the summertime. Okay, we just had a district manager staff meeting this afternoon, and we were actually talking about some of these topics, and I was like, man, how irrelevant that we're talking about it as a DM team, and it's the same exact stuff that I wanted to bring to our Leadership Academy class. So the core concept, and this is probably worth putting in your notes, is that one of the defining things you can do as a leader is execute in transition. Executing in transition. When things are changing, the way that you lead, when things are in transition, the way that you lead has such a big impact. It's easy when we're in the middle of the summer and our teams are as big as they're going to be and we're selling $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a week. And it's the push and we have divisional calls where everybody's on every morning. It's easy then. But in the transition, like right now, we're basically speaking it into existence and it doesn't exist yet. And we make it happen. Some of you guys have heard the story when I was a new branch manager. And I remember vividly, I talked so much about the team that we were building that at my first team meeting as a branch manager, all my new reps came in from my first training class and they were so excited to meet the team. And they're like, where's the rest of the team? And I was like, you're the team. All right. And they're like, but you talked about it so much. I said, I know. You're the first one. There's going to be more. There's people starting tomorrow. Right. And then 3 weeks later, we had the team that I'd been talking about when I didn't even have an office. I remember so vividly as this entertained the bejesus out of me when I was a branch manager, and it's still a fun memory. But I was talking back then about how we had a daily call in, and every rep calls in between 9 and 10 a.m. and everybody makes sure to check in, and the best people check in early so they get more time. The slackers wait until 9:55 and call in. And don't be the person who doesn't call in, because you get a big red X in the book and we mark you as a no call, no show. And I remember talking about that in varying degrees in the interview, and then in training, and day 2 of training, and advanced training. And I remember that first Tuesday, I got to my office at 8:30 a.m. and at 9 o'clock, my phone rang and my best rep called me. Right. And then at 9:02, the phone rang and my next best rep called me. And then there was a gap because I only had 5 reps. There was a gap. And then the 3 slackers all called in between 9:50 and 9:59. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I was just talking about this and it didn't exist. It wasn't real. But I literally just spoke this into existence. And it was awesome. Right. But the way that you conduct yourself before you have the team culture impacts the team culture that you have. I remember, I won't name names, but we had a branch manager last year who never once showed up to his office for 10X. I'm not thinking about someone from last year, I'm thinking about someone from 2 years ago, but never showed up at his office for 10X, right? Was never in there at 8 a.m. And I remember asking him about it, right? And vividly, I remember, because I talked to him at 8:30 and I was like, where are you? And he goes, oh, I'm at home. I said, why are you at home? You're scheduled to be in the office. And he says, well, there's no one who's going to be in the office, so I'm not in the office. And I said, dude, if you were in the office at 8 a.m. by yourself, how much harder do you think you would work to get reps to be in the office with you at 8 a.m.? Right? Versus if you're like, oh, well, I could go to the office at 8 a.m., but if no one signs up, I don't have to. Right? How much more lax are you with getting people to sign up? You know, so what I do, and I'm going to encourage all of you guys to do this, is I set a date in my calendar. By the way, my date is May 20th. And on May 20th, I'm in my office Monday through Thursday at 8 a.m., regardless of whether anybody's in the office with me or not. And what that does is I know full well on May 20th, I will have between 0 and 2 people in the office with me. May 21st, I'll have between 0 and 2 people in the office with me. May 23rd, I'll have 0 to 2 people in the office with me. May 24th, I'll have 0 to 2 people in the office with me. But May 24th is going to be the biggest training class of the year up to that point. I know this. May 24th, we're going to add between 25 and 35 people to the team. And I'm going to promote to them the best people come to the office at 8 a.m. And I know that if I've already been coming to the office by myself for 4 consecutive days, I will fight and scratch and kick and claw to get people to show up at the office at 8 a.m. with me so that I don't have to do it alone anymore. I know this. And I know that May 27th, that first Monday, we're going to have between 5 and 10 people in the office at 8 a.m. And that will continue for the remainder of summer all the way until August 19th. Do you guys get that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I can tell you now, it's going to happen because I've already committed to the action. The managers who wait, like, oh, I'll wait and see. I'll wait and I'll start doing it when other people start doing it. That's not leadership. Right? So that's the first thing is the way that you execute the transition. That's also why for the assistant managers in my office, I cut all of them loose. We cut their office schedules down to just the absolute minimum. And I'm running my office almost, not 100%, but almost entirely by myself for this week and next week, because this week is the last week of the spring campaign and next week is the first week of the summer campaign. And I want to make sure that our management team is selling Cutco, making money, having cash in their pockets, building their confidence, but also so that they're creating sales that sets a tone for the rest of the people that we're recruiting over the next several weeks. So their sales impact the managers, their sales impacts their own revenue and income, and that's important. It also impacts the tone that we're setting for the rest of the team. By the way, we are still 2 weeks later, exactly $9,000 shy of our target. This is the final week. The final week. We've got 6 days left. And we need a big week. So I'm going to ask you guys to give your absolute best to close things out. I'm doing demos. John Tevis is doing demos in Japan. But we have $9,000 to go. And for perspective, we sold $2,000 last week. We sold $1,000 the week that just ended yesterday. And we need to jump that up by 400% in 6 days' time. So I'm going to ask you guys for your best work over the next week. That's a little bit of an aside, but important. Couple mantras, and I want you guys to write these down. Couple mantras that I want you guys to have as a leader in your organization. Number one, Ashley, Kayla, just for fun, you've heard this stuff before, so I'm going to ask you if you remember these. If I say never be, what comes to your mind?
Tired, broken.
Yes, never be broke, tired, hungry, or angry. Why?
Because if you're hungry, you're going to be complaining.
Yes, if you're hungry, you're going to be in a bad mood. You're going to be complaining. You're not going to be your best self.
And same thing if you're tired, it's kind of the same exact thing. Like it's not going to positively affect reps, and if it's not going to positively affect them, it's kind of the point of it. And then broke, well, you're also going to be angry, and then also reps will think you don't get anything here.
If I may, it's more about perception than reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Never. And by the way, I promise you, for those of you working in my office, you'll experience this summer where at some point somebody will come into my office and I'll be like, how are you? And they'll go, I'm so tired. And I'll make them go outside and take a couple laps around the building and come back in, not tired. Okay. Never. And by the way, you'll be tired. Okay. You'll be tired. If you're not tired, you're not working hard enough. Okay. You're either going to be comfortable or you're going to be aggressively moving towards your goals, your choice, but it's one or the other. But if you come in and you're telling reps like, oh, I'm so tired. I didn't get any sleep last night. I was in the office so late. I was in the office so early. How attractive does that make the job seem to the sales reps? And their perception is their reality. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? And you never want to tell a rep, like, how are you? I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten all day. Okay. There will be times that you don't eat all day. Okay. I'll just tell you, I'm a big proponent of pack a lunch, bring it to work for branches and districts, have a fridge in the office with healthy snacks, not fast food, but healthy snacks and food to eat. But when I was an assistant manager, there was a rule that we were not allowed to eat in the office. Right? And they didn't give us a lunch break. So it was you showed up to work and then you ate after you were done working. I remember vividly when I shadowed the big dance, for those of you that shadowed our training seminar back in January. First off, training was scheduled to be a 9-hour day of training. And my manager was a talker. So training actually went for 10 and a half hours. Okay. And his rule was you're in the office when I'm in the office. And you're not eating if I'm not eating. And he got up and he just ran a 10 and a half hour day of training without taking a break for food. So did all of the manager candidates. Okay. And that was the culture that I grew up in. I remember at one point, I told my manager I was hungry. I said, hey, can I take a break and get some food? I'm hungry. He said, food is for the weak. And that was the final answer. Okay, that's not my policy, just to be clear. My policy is I want you to have food. I want you to be sustained and sustenanced. But you never want to tell a rep you're hungry. You never want to tell a rep, oh, I'm working so hard. I was here so late. I was here so early. I haven't eaten since, right? Because it doesn't give the right perception to the sales reps of what the job is. Okay, similarly, always have money. Okay, for me, most of you guys are well aware of this at this point, but in my money clip, I always have $100 bill on top. Okay, sometimes in here, there's multiple $100 bills. Sometimes it's $100 bill and then my driver's license and my debit card and my car key, right? Right now, I've got my $100 bill and then 3 ones. Okay. Actually, I need to go hit the ATM. I went in my wife's purse because I did want some cash. My intention was to go buy some half price Easter candy. That's real. I didn't get a chocolate bunny yet this year and I need one. But I went in my wife's purse and she also only had $100 bill. And I was like, oh, I can't take her 100. That would be not very kind. But I'm definitely, after done working, going to buy myself at least one Easter bunny, in case you were wondering. But you always want to have money. Okay, I've seen managers, by the way. I remember this so vividly. My assistant manager did this so well when I was a rep. I'll be honest, when I was a rep, not a manager, a rep, the office was doing okay. But I had one assistant manager who wasn't selling anything personally, and the office was doing okay, but all of her assistant manager pay was going into withholdings anyway. So she was probably feeling pretty tight financially. But she went to every single team night out, and she always drank water, right? She got the free water. And what she would tell us was, oh yeah, I'm not gonna eat here. I have homemade food at the house. I'm just here to socialize, right? And I never once had any inkling that she wasn't making any money until literally it was years later. And years later, I realized, oh, that's what she was doing. Right. But I've seen managers where they don't go to team night out like, oh, I can't afford it. Right. Or, oh, I don't have any money to eat. And that just doesn't give a very good impression to the reps. Right. So you don't need to spend a lot of money, but you never want to complain about being broke or give the impression that you're broke. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right. Really important. The next thing I had in my notes was always have money, but we just talked about that one in conjunction with never be broke. Third one, Kayla, I'm going to ask you for your help on this one. Duck on water.
So I was trying to figure out how I wanted to explain it.
Yeah.
So duck on water is like, so ducks like on top of the water, they look like all calm and, you know, like they're relaxed, but under the water they're paddling like crazy. So basically, never let anyone see you sweat. That's kind of basically just that. So cool, calm, and collected. Like if there's a, I'm trying to think of a word without cussing.
Go ahead. You're allowed.
Okay, if there's a shit show in the office.
Whoa.
You said okay. Anyway, but yeah, if there's that in the office, cool, calm, and collected. But, you know, padding like crazy under the water. Yeah.
Cool. The core concept is that whatever happens is exactly what's supposed to happen. Okay. The visual aid is if you ever look at a duck floating on a pond, they're just kind of chilling, right? Just grooving, hanging out. But if you look under the water, their legs are just freaking out all the time to keep them afloat. And that's how you want to be. Like as a manager in the office, you should always be moving. You should constantly be moving around because motion creates emotion. And if people walk into the office and everything is very still, I confess, we had that today where I finished up a divisional staff meeting. Kayla was running a phone interview. Landon came in the office and Kayla and I were in the back office. I was kind of listening to her do the phone interview, and Landon just kind of came in and was like, shook my hand. And he's like, cool. So what are we doing? Let's talk, you know? But that was the culture that we created versus if the managers are moving around and doing stuff and there's stuff happening, people automatically will feel like, I need to be doing stuff. I need to make something happen. So you want to constantly be in motion, but never freaking out. All right. You want to make sure that your surface level is chilling. Right. And there will be times for all of us when things happen that we weren't planning on. I've had it before. I was running an interview and the lights completely went out in the entire neighborhood, including in my building. And I was running an interview in the dark. Right. And I remember the way that I felt was, oh shit, I've never had that happen before. What do I do? Right. And what I actually did was I thought about it for a second. I was like, hey guys, we're almost done. So if you want, we can stop the interview and reschedule to tomorrow, or we can just keep going. And if I'm going to guess the lights will come back on before the interview's done. Right. And the applicants were like, oh, yeah, that's fine. Let's keep going. And I just continued running the interview in the dark, and then the lights came back on, and it was fine. You know, I had at one time, I've had so many weird things happen over the years. It's true. What are some other fun ones I could share with you? Oh, I had it one time when I was running an interview, and it wasn't the current interview. It was the old school one that was like 90 minutes long and we didn't have slides. I was running an interview, and I noticed one of my applicants wasn't taking notes. And so I looked down at him and I said, hey, I know you're not taking notes. Is everything okay? And he looks up at me and smirks and goes, no, this company's a scam, and I know it's a pyramid scheme, and I just came here because I wanted to call you out in front of everybody. And in my mind, I'm like, well,
wasn't in his face.
I did. I wanted to kick him in his face. B, I was like, whoa, what do I do about this? They didn't talk about that one in Leadership Academy. And what I actually did was I said, hey, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. Obviously, this isn't going to be a good fit to work together. So let me just take your notes from you, and I'll invite you. If you would like to call me later and discuss, you're invited. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to leave, and I definitely wish you the best of success. And then I didn't say another word until he was out the door. Okay? I've had other people. I remember one time, this was an interesting one. Had a kid come into my office for advanced training. Had a kid come into advanced training reeking of weed. Reeking. Made the entire building smell like weed. And I was like, well, my office now smells like weed. Wasn't really prepared for that. Wasn't really a thing they talked about in Leadership Academy. But I got to deal with this right now, you know? And so in my mind, I was feeling all kinds of emotions. I was feeling a combination of anger at this kid. I was feeling a combination of embarrassment of how my office now smelled. And I had to figure out how to handle it, you know? But there's going to be scenarios. But the main key, the core at the end of it is that stuff will happen. Actually, that's enough stories. It's enough. Have some good stories, though, a lot of them. But anyway, the core is that stuff's going to happen. You can't control what happens. You can't control what people do. You can control how you respond and the perception that you give to people. And you always want to give the perception that I'm in control, it's fine, it's not a big deal, right? Everything is as it should be. And then you just work to take actions to make that the reality. But the perception, especially in times of crisis, when your body goes into freak out mode, right? And your heart starts racing and you sweat a little bit, the perception that you give is what matters most, because people are watching to see how you handle that stuff. Does that make sense?
Shelby said that on her live stream today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then the last thing I had in my notes was be someone who other people want to be. Be someone who other people want to be.
Thank you.
You don't need to have a fake persona. You don't need to pretend that you've already got millions in the bank and you're only working because you feel like working, right? You don't need to be fake. But again, it's all about controlling your perception. Be someone that people want to be. You know, in the summertime, we all work really hard. You know, for our assistant managers, you guys are going to be selling Cutco and working office hours. And some of you guys will be working 35 or 40 hours a week, which might be more than you've worked in a previous summer. For our sales managers, you guys might be working 50 or 60 hours a week. You know, for our branch managers and our new district managers, you guys might be working 60, 70, 80 hours in a week. And I've talked to Kayla about this a couple of times. I'm a big believer that that's not a vector thing. That's being a new startup or a new entrepreneur thing. And that's how it should be when you're a new entrepreneur. For me, I'm not a new entrepreneur. I'm not a startup anymore. I'm still going to be working probably 60-ish hours a week. And that's okay, right? I write my own schedule. That's the schedule I wrote myself. But I'll tell you, especially in the summer, we all work harder than we do in the off season. And in many cases, I've had reps come up to me like, dude, you work so hard. Like, you're always here. Do you ever take time off? And the way that you respond to that matters. Some of you guys have had this conversation with me. And, my response is, honestly, I get bored working 40 hours a week. That's true, by the way, right? I get bored working 40 hours a week. So for me, working 50, 60 hours, like, that's my happy place. I don't work all the time. And at this stage in my life, I typically take Sundays off. But for me to work Monday through Friday, more than 8 hours, and then to work a half day on Saturday and have Sunday off, like, that's my happy place. I'm comfortable there. And by the way, that is my reality. But I could tell a rep like, oh yeah, dude, like, I work all the time. Like, I'm so overworked and stressed, that doesn't give the same perception. So I make sure I tell the story that communicates it. When I was a new manager, that wasn't the case. When I was a branch, I was in my office 7 days a week. When I was a new district, some of you guys have heard this, but part of it was that the programs and the business were very different. We were on the 20+ hour training at that point that went Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And also we recruited way more people than I had planned on. I think our target was 125 recruits, and we actually recruited 244. It was literally almost a double. And we were just completely overwhelmed and swamped in a good way, because we also sold almost $500,000 that summer. So it worked out really well. But I remember vividly, there were some nights I was in my office on Friday night until 11 o'clock at night, packaging up bags of rope and leather. There were times I'd call my wife and say, hey, can you help me put rope and leather in baggies, please? Right? And that was what we did on Friday night. And then I was back in the office on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Wasn't like that all the time. But I had some of my top reps who noticed I was in the office all the time, and I didn't have any assistant managers at that stage because I was new. And they would ask me, hey, dude, like, you work all the time. Like, do you ever sleep? And I'll tell you, by the way, for the branches and the new districts, take this, like, steal this. But the way I responded to them was, yeah, I do work all the time right now. This isn't how I work all the time. It's not always like this, but this is our peak season, and we're a new office, and we're trying to break a record. So yeah, I'll work like this for 4 months, but it's not like that forever. It's like that for 4 months. And a lot of times your top people, they respect that. Like, I can appreciate the grind for a short period of time. I just wouldn't want that to be my life. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And we got some really good people and some really good development from that. The assistant managers, it's a little different for you guys, but I think the concept would be the same. Like, yeah, I'm working like this to break a record. I'm working like this for the summer. I don't always work like that. My goal is not to work like that forever, but I'm willing to do it for 4 months because of the goals that I have, or the goals that we have. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Similarly, people will ask you stuff like, how old are you? And most of you guys already know my response on that one. I do think there's a balance. You don't want to be fake and be like, oh, I'm 26 when you're not. But I don't think you should tell everybody everything about you, So what I used to do is I would just smile and say, that's a $10,000 question. Right? Some of you guys have heard this one from me before. I'm like, oh, that's a $10,000 question. I'm like, what is your age? I have to pay $10,000.
I still don't even know what
no.
age is. I would never ask him that.
No, you have to sell $10,000, and then you can ask me again. Note, by the way, I don't tell them I'll tell them when they sell 10,000. I tell them they can ask me again. And then when they sell 10 grand, I've had this, by the way, where reps come to me. Yeah, it's a $20,000 question. And it's a $30,000 question. And it's a question I'll answer when I damn well feel like it. Right? I've had reps ask me.
$500,000 in sales. $600,000 question.
John Tevis still doesn't know. For what that's worth. John Tevis has guessed. John Tevis has done
I've
math.
always been told it's disrespectful to ask.
Yeah, John Tevis has done math and put together formulas to try to figure it out.
Formulas, that seems like
or they can just get on with PDI.
He's boiled it down to a 3-year window. John Tevis has boiled it down to a 3-year window for what that's worth. Anyway, neither here nor there. Especially for those of you that are young, I've had reps ask me, what are you doing this weekend, or what did you do last night? Or they would, Yeah. Or they would ask me if I wanted to go to a party. I had lots of reps invite me to parties when I was a branch.
I agree.
What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, they would ask me if I was single or seeing anybody. When I did start dating Carissa, like I would talk about her a little bit when we got serious, right? And then they would start asking me stuff about our relationship. And all those questions you always want to deflect. The bottom line and the mystique or the concept of having an onion with all the layers. If you can imagine an onion with all the layers, once you let someone inside a layer, you can't put them back outside again, right? So whenever people are asking you personal questions, you just have to realize that if I choose to answer this one, they're now inside and they're not going back out again. They can only go further in. And I just ask myself sometimes, like, is that a decision I want to make? And the honest truth is at times I do choose to let people in, right? A simple example is when someone's a brand new baby rep, I do not curse in front of them, right? I do not. When you're a manager, I do occasionally. And it's not that cursing makes me cooler or better, but I know for all of you guys, the first time you heard me curse, you're like, "Ooh, did you just do that?" Like, that's how people respond to that. And you don't want to do it all the time. Sometimes I go overboard, and that certainly doesn't give off the mystique that I want. So sometimes I need to work to control that. But that is a thing where I make a conscious choice. Hey, if someone's a manager, I'll let them hear my curse, because I remember how I felt the first time I heard my manager, like, wait, he's a human? But that's just an example. There are certain people that I choose to invite to my house, and there are other people I don't want them to know even the town that I live in, just different things. But the bottom line is you just always want to ask yourself the question, like, if I let this person in, it's permanent. I could always make that decision later, but if I make it now, I can't undo it. Right. And so there are certain things that should be a hard red line, like no dating reps if you're in a position above them, because that could go badly, both for the person, for the rep, for the culture, and also you could get sued. So just as a general rule of thumb, managers should not date people underneath them, because that doesn't go well ever. Shouldn't party with reps. If they invite you, appreciate the invitation and don't accept it. But then when it comes down to other stuff, like just as an example, actually, in the leadership group, one of the districts was trying to organize a night to go watch one of the Avengers movies. That's cool to do, right? That's cool to do. Occasionally, I'll organize like a team event, like we go to an escape room or medieval times or bowling or something like that. That's cool. And then I've also had it. I remember one time I had a rep on my team that was a really good kid, and Chris and I were going to go see a movie, and I invited him, like, hey, do you want to come see the movie with us? And we didn't do anything before, didn't do anything after, but we saw the movie together, and he was like, I really appreciate being invited to come hang out with my manager and his wife. We spent some time. Colin was organizing, I think, to go see the new Avengers movie, right?
Yeah, he was organizing with me. We were on the phone.
Yeah, and I would imagine that they might get some food before or after, but he's definitely not going to take them bar hopping afterwards. Like, there's a line where it's like, yeah, we'll get together, we'll be cool as coworkers, but there's also a line where it's like, hey, there's some things that we're just not going to do, right, with the people on the squad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you just have to have that balance. So that is the key. That said, I'm going to stop there, but just FYI, the part that I had to cut. Actually, let me wrap up with this. The part that I had to cut, I wanted to talk about some of the success habits. One of the things that came up on our divisional staff meeting that I was planning on sharing is Kate asked the question, when you're at your best, when you're at your peak performance, and this might be a good question to ask yourselves, what distinguishes your peak performance from your average performance? And I'll tell you, my comment was, when I have a morning routine, I know I'm on point, right? When I'm at my best, I wake up at a certain time every day, which is not 60 minutes before I need to physically be in the office. Like I'll wake up at a certain time every day and I'll start my day at that time. And I have a morning routine that is mapped out. I was intending to share my morning routine with you and a lesson that I learned from Tim Ferriss, the author of the 4-Hour Workweek. Also, I'm sorry that we didn't get to this today, but next week, I have a secret technique that helps you deal with stress and overwhelm. And I know for all of you guys, whether you're a student or not, whether you're currently running your office or not, all of you guys at different periods are dealing with being stressed and overwhelmed. And I have a secret technique to help you get rid of that that I was going to teach today. I don't have time because we spent 45 minutes on Facebook, but I'll teach it next week. For right now, here's the things I want you guys to focus on. If you want to make an action list, and then I'll leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. Also, Kayla, I apologize. You had something you wanted to volunteer, and then I just forgot. So if I can go back, was it about Mystique and the Onion?
Oh, yeah. So for, like, John used the example of, like, a rep asking you what you, like, did this weekend. Kate talked about this not last year, but the year before that at kickoff. It's the idea of Mystique. Like, there's a way to tell someone, like, what you did last night without going into every single detail. Like, you can talk to them about it. You know, like, if you went to a movie and then went to the bar afterwards, you can leave the last part out. Oh, like, I went to a movie or something like that. Or say you did go to the bar and you were dancing on tables. That was the example. That was the example Kate gave, so I'm just giving that example. You could just say, oh, I went out with some friends. You don't have to say, oh, I went to a bar. Like, it's not lying. It's just, like, withhold. They don't need to know all that, you know?
Yeah. That's a really good point.
And then my question for you was, obviously, like, if a rep asked you to go to a party, like, you would say no. But, like, what if they're like, oh, could you come to, like, a sharp rep? It's like, hey, like, it's like a family cookout or something like that. Like, because that's, like, kind of different than a party, per se. Obviously, like, a baby or new rep, no.
Yeah.
But, like, something like that.
I went to your party.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, like,
but I mean, that's a great,
yeah.
I mean, that is the example.
Yeah, I'm like, obviously not a party where like we're at the club and drinking alcohol. Yeah. That's not appropriate.
That's a great question. And I mean, to answer your question, I'm going to talk about your party. So that is a really good question. I definitely don't party with reps. And at different periods of my life.
You see the little sneaky spot.
No. I'll tell you the full story. At different periods of my life, I've had it.
You gotta show them your smile. You gotta turn the camera around so they can see it.
I'm gonna tell you the full story. I'm not hiding anything.
Okay.
But at different periods of my life, I've had it where a rep asked me to go to a party, and I was like, "Oh, I really appreciate the invitation, but you know, I made an excuse to not go." Recently, though, as I've aged, I had a rep invite me out to a party last year, and my response was just to laugh at him. I just laughed at him. I was like, I appreciate the invitation, but I'm definitely not partying with you. Have fun.
Kate says she says you guys can't hang with me. That's what she says she tells people. I haven't been so
Kate
funny.
says you can hang with me. That's probably true.
Imagine that. Hey, you want to go? You can't hang with
That
me.
would make me want
I don't think you can keep up.
That's probably true. But yeah, last year I just laughed at a rep. That was the thing that made me smile because it was hilarious. But yeah, for something appropriate, I had one of my guys, for those of you that have watched my PR talk, it was Evan Bradley Lewis, invited me to his high school graduation, and I really appreciated that. And I was like, I will 100% go to your high school graduation. And I did. And I watched him walk, and I met his parents after. That was awesome. Recently, Kayla's mom invited me to her surprise birthday party.
John didn't tell me about.
Yeah, I did a really good job. And I was like, you know what? I really appreciate that I'm invited. I would be honored to go to Kayla's surprise birthday party. And so I did. So that's happened occasionally. It's not common usually. But you make the call. Like, do I want to go to a kegger with my reps? No. Right. Do I want to go to a house party with my reps? Absolutely not. Even though I like free beer as much as the next person, it's going to do more harm than good. But to go to something like that where it's like, hey, I got a special invite to a party, like a birthday party or something from the family or a family cookout or something. Absolutely. Right. And you make the call if that's worth your time and something that you want to do. But yeah, there are some people where that is, And then sometimes you can be the organizer. Like some of you guys have been to our team ski trip that we've done, or our team trip to King's Dominion that we've done, or just a movie, or just come to my house. Or sometimes I like, hey, let's go take a ride in my car. That's a way to spend time with someone. I do think there's a value in that. You just gotta keep it appropriate. There is a line that once you let someone in, they don't go out again. So that's the yardstick to measure by. So Kayla, I appreciate both the comment and the question. Let me leave you with this in our final minutes together here. What's important right now? I was talking to Landon and Nick about this the other day, but as this week is the final week of the campaign, and then Tuesday is the first official day of the summer, whether you're done with school or not, I would say there are 3 things that matter right now. Actually, Landon, I'll let you share since we just talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, so for managers, the number one thing is selling.
Yeah, personal sales.
Personal sales.
And personal sales because A, it's momentum. B, it builds your confidence that you still got it, right? Plus it puts money in your pocket, and cash is confidence. So number 1 is personal sales.
Number 2 is PRs.
Yeah, so for those of you that are physically in an office, getting familiar with the office conveyor and scheduling PRs for interviews. If you are not currently in an office, then PRing your own personal friends, getting them in that Google form. Yes, PRs, that is how we start the summer. And then number 3?
It's Facebook Jumpstart.
Yeah, Facebook Jumpstart, all the stuff we spent the first 45 minutes on. Absolutely. So those would be the 3 things. And then the last thing for branch and district managers, I'll give you guys 2 more things. Number 1, yeah, shout out to Landon scheduling 19 PRs this week?
17
PRs this week. Excellent work. For branch and district managers, 2 more things. Number 1 is you want to get all of your interviews in Vector Live for the summer. Once they're in Vector Live, the company can start scheduling people for them even without you doing anything. But you want to get them all the way in through July or August. Branches July, districts August. And literally just take the schedule that Kate gave you and get them all in there. The second thing for branches and districts is get your office conveyor set up. Okay, they put in the GroupMe all the snippets, and I did this myself. Literally, you watch tutorial videos, takes about 45 minutes. And then it took me like 2.5 minutes to get all the snippets copied in. It's really easy, but Office Conveyor is the freaking bomb. We've proved that in the last 2 weeks, that literally just work in the program. We've scheduled more PRs than the texting center with only 4 hours of effort. It's divided among 2 people. So that said, that is everything I've got for today. I'm going to end here, but I will stick around if any of you guys have any questions. And then just a reminder that next Tuesday is our final Leadership Academy. Next Tuesday is day 1 of the summer. And then from there on out, Leadership Academy stops because promotions become official. So I appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.